Okay. Surprise! Look, where'd you come from? I'm you from the future. Really? How'd you get here? That's not important. What is really important was what I've come to tell you. I hope it's some good news. Seriously, because of the pandemic, I could really use some good news right now. Exactly. But how did you discover time travel? That's not important. It isn't? Look, no time to explain. I've come to warn you. Okay. The vaccine in my time, it's come. The vaccine really came out? That's wonderful. But beware. About what? If you get the vaccine, you'll get 5G. What? It's all part of their plan, you see. If you get the vaccine, you'll get 5G reception, and all your favorite TV shows will switch to streaming services you don't have. And you'll be magnetic. Like Magneto from X-Men? What are you talking about? I'm definitely gonna take the vaccine as soon as I can, but this sounds a little... Don't listen to him! Huh? Who are you? I'm you from the future. But how? It's not important, just listen. Okay. Elon Musk, yeah, is going to be on Saturday Night Live. Okay. And it's all part of his plan to distract everyone. From what? You know how 91% of all plastics that people recycle are not actually recycled? What? Really? Yes, it's true, I swear. And Elon Musk is teaming up with the Ocean Cleanup Project to have SpaceX take all the plastic out of the ocean and launch it straight into the sun. Okay, I mean, this sounds like it might actually be good news, but why'd you travel back in time to tell me this? Because! Don't listen to him! Okay, this is getting a little... No time, I gotta tell you something! Well, this ought to be good. The U.S. Department of Education... Yeah? Is going to make all public school teachers... Yeah? Give standardized tests this spring. Okay. Seriously, after the most stressful year in schools ever in recent history, you expect me to believe that one? You've got to be kidding. Get your money, man. Life goes on. I'm hopeful. Yes, I am hopeful for today. Welcome one and all to another episode of Engage, where learning through play is the name of the game. I hope you and yours are staying healthy and safe. Have we got a treat for you today? A few years back, my brother and I jumped on the opportunity to attend the largest tabletop gaming convention in all of North America, known as Gen Con. And let me tell you, it did not disappoint. We are talking not only the entirety of the Indianapolis Convention Center, but also Lucas Oil Stadium, plus a huge swath of local bars and restaurants and hotel ballrooms filled to the brim with opportunities to play brand new releases, compete in tournaments, roll the dice in tabletop RPGs, jump into character in LARPs, even immerse yourself in mega games, and so much more. It's literally impossible to experience everything that Gen Con has to offer. You have to plan what highlights you definitely want to hit up, and for me, one of those highlights that I did not want to miss out on was checking out the First Exposure Playtest Hall. At the First Exposure Playtest Hall in Gen Con, you have the opportunity to test drive prototypes of games still in development from designers from all over the world. And that was where I had the opportunity to play a very early prototype of the game that we're here to talk about today. May I present Cardspiracy. Designed by Brent Fuster and Locke Watson with the help of artist Kim Van Duyn, Cardspiracy is a devious little party game designed for 4 to 6 players ages 14 and up, where players compete to shepherd the largest flock of sheep, or attract the largest amount of followers on the internet to subscribe to and share their viral conspiracy theories. That's right, everybody. This episode of Engage is just a theory. A conspiracy theory. Thanks for watching and for believing that the truth is out there. Now, of course, my friends, this is not a game review show. The ongoing mission here on Engage is to help make game and play-based learning of all different kinds more accessible to educators all across the globe. However, because Cardspiracy has not actually been released yet, I'm going to start here today by giving a brief tutorial on how to play the game. If you'd rather skip directly ahead to when we explore how to leverage this game for educational purposes, click or tap on the timecode appearing on screen in the description below. In the game of Cardspiracy, you'll be taking on the role of a conspiracy theorist who will stop at nothing to stir the pot and spill the tea in order to attract as much attention as possible. Ah yes, that's some good tea. And by the end of the game, the player with the largest legion of followers eating out of the palm of their hand will win. Before the game starts in earnest, every player is given a character card to keep secret until the very end of the game. You will see that each character has a preference for what flavors of hot goss they prefer to percolate, and there is a chance your character might not be alone in what flavors they savor. It is also highly recommended to take the character known as the Rational Thinker out of the deck and set them aside for your first playthrough of this game, because rational thinking is totally a buzzkill and we don't want any of that going on here. Each player will start the game with 2 of each of these who, what, and why cards, plus 3 of these action cards, and each player will also gather 3 followers marked with the number 1. Now, to find out who actually gets to unveil their conspiracy theory first, the rules actually suggest letting each player rip a large piece of tinfoil and giving everyone exactly 1 minute to create the best tinfoil hat that, and I quote, can be both fashionable and functional. The rules don't explicitly mention the need to rock out to Weird Al Yankovic's foil while doing this, but I'm sure that goes without saying. Alternatively, especially if you don't have any tinfoil around, you can ask everyone to shut their eyes tight and grab 3 random followers from the pool, and whoever has the largest sum will get the first player token and start the game, and everyone must then return all those random followers back to the pool before we get started. Now you're ready to start conjuring up some clickbait. Each player is going to choose 1 who, 1 what, and 1 why card in order to craft their conspiracy theory and unleash it out into the wild. And I highly recommend, as you're doing this, to set each piece of your conspiracy theory face down on the table so that everyone else will know when you're ready to shock the world with your exposé. Now, if during this blog headline writing phase, if you're finding that whatever was in your hand just wasn't sparking joy, and you're struggling with conspiracy theorist writer's block, and I'm sure we've all been there, you can scrap whatever material you didn't find inspiring and reach for some new material. But the only thing you have to consider is that your loyal followers are going to get bored waiting for your latest and greatest news break, and you'll have to say goodbye to at least 3 of them as you're doing this. Once you and your competition are all set to go, the player with the first player token will go ahead and make headlines first by unveiling what they had and announcing everything to the table, and then you will continue around clockwise so that each player has a chance to share their story. Now, just before each player's inside scoop is lovingly handcrafted into a social media sundae, a world event occurs, and depending on what could happen, it could add a cherry on top to whatever you have in store, or it could send your plans splat all over the sidewalk. Once the world event has been revealed, your competition might also then take advantage of that diversion and play an action card to try and hack your headline. However, if you were lucky enough to come prepared with the right action card in order to defend yourself, you could deflect their cyber attack onto any other player of your choosing. This is where, if spilling the beans out of the whole enchilada of fake news wasn't spicy enough for you, the chain reactions that could happen at this point in the game might just add that little bit of hot sauce that you're looking for. But be aware that whoever has the first player token gets to take action first in this take action phase. So the order in which the action cards are played is going to matter a lot. You might have an action card, for instance, that allows you to shield yourself from the effects of the world event, and another player might step in to thwart your defenses, to which you, or any other player for that matter, could respond in kind with a third reaction card, and yet another player could jump in to cancel that, and, well, you get the idea. Other action cards that say reveal on the top may grant you other abilities, such as the chance to peer into the future and catch a glimpse of a world event that might impact your plans to reel in those famished followers. These abilities are also subject to getting hacked and cancelled by your rivals though, so look out. Once everybody is finished playing whatever action cards you were planning on playing, we now enter the go viral phase of the game, in which every player, starting with the first player, will take a turn to read their headline aloud once again because their headline might have been corrupted by other players' actions. This is a terrific way to emulate what can and often does happen on social media when the original intent of a message gets corrupted and scrambled over time like a game of telephone that's gone horribly wrong. Once everybody has had the opportunity to share their headlines once again, each player will then take a certain amount of follower tokens from the follower pool, depending on how many players you're playing the game with, and award these new followers to 1 headline of your choosing, because these followers really do flock together like sheep. They don't like to be separated. And at this point, congratulations! We've made it to the end of the round, where each player will now take a moment to score the headline in front of them, bearing the conditions of the world event in mind, and we'll go over scoring in a moment. But for now, take your published headline, stash it by your character card for end of game scoring, and refresh your hand so that you have what you started the game with. 2 who cards, 2 what cards, 2 why cards, and 3 action cards. In my case, I did not play an action card in this round, but I'm still going to discard an action card and draw another, as that will help keep my actions fresh. So let's talk about scoring. There are going to be 3 elements at play that determine how good of an influencer you really are. First off is the categories of each part of your headline printed on the side of the card. You're going to want to pay attention to those. The second is going to be the event that was currently in play during that round. And the third is going to be the nature of your secret character, which we'll get to at the very end of the game. So let's take a look at this example. Let's say I've been playing as the character Incorruptible, who has a vested interest in keeping a close eye on the government and the corporate world at large. And the conspiracy theory that I concocted for this round, even after everybody played all their action cards and everything else, is airport security is using trace amounts of ectoplasm to compile a secret database. Now, if you look at the categories for each of these cards, I'm going to earn at least 1 follower for each type of card that's not a generic card. And then I'm going to take the conditions of the world event that was in play for this round into consideration. And let's say that world event was that the secret society motivation remains unknown. And the condition of that event is that anybody's Y cards are considered generic. In other words, anybody's Y cards just don't earn any points for this round. My Y card was already generic, so it doesn't affect me at all in this particular case. And then at the very end of the game, because of my character's bonuses, this part is at least going to earn 1 follower later at the very end of the game. So that conspiracy theory would have generated at least 3 followers. Not bad, but let's take a look at a much higher scoring example of what you could end up with in this game. Let's say I'm still playing with this character Incorruptible, and maybe in the next round I got the top 1% are using genetically engineered crops to keep down the poor. Each one of these has a particular theme to it that's not generic, so they are each going to earn 1 follower apiece. Boom, boom, boom. Then I'm going to consider the matching bonus. There are 3 cards that match, so 1 + 1 + 1 times the matching bonus of 3 is going to net me a total of 9 followers. But wait, there's more. I need to take whatever the world event was that was active during that round into consideration. And in this case, the word on the street is that the minimum wage has just been abolished. And the condition of that world event is that every corporate themed card is going to attract 1 more follower, and every other themed card is going to lose a follower. I have all corporate cards, so again, I'm going to earn 1, 2, 3 followers. So much juicy hot goss. 15 followers right there. So then I'm going to publish this event. This is all the scoring I'm doing for now, including whatever followers people awarded to me as everybody shared their events earlier. At the very end of the game, I'm going to break this out again to see whatever character bonuses I get. And again, Incorruptible wants to keep a close eye on corporations out there, and so I'm going to earn 1 more follower for each piece of this conspiracy theory. Naturally, netting that many followers in just 1 round is going to be quite difficult, considering the implications of every world event that's going to come up, not to mention how your fierce competition for attention around the table is going to be constantly trying to meddle with your rumor mill, so you can expect a wide variety of outcomes. And that's actually, in my opinion, why I love this party game, because it's widely unpredictable. And there's ample opportunity for players who fall behind early in the game to stage a massive comeback by the end. Now, for those of you who might be thinking, this is way too many rules and strategy to keep in mind for what you said was going to be just a party game. Worry not, because the rulebook has another variant of this game that makes Cardspiracy more of a pure social kind of gaming experience that can also boost the player count up to 8. In this variant, you'll have the who, what, and why decks of cards in front of you, and that's it. Players will begin by electing someone to take on the role of the editor, and the editor will claim one of these 3 decks to use as the editor's deck. So let's say, for example, they choose the Y deck. The editor will then draw 3 cards from the Y deck, while everybody else around the table draws 3 cards from each of the remaining decks, the what deck and the who deck. The editor will then choose one of their Y cards, announce it to the room, and place it in the middle for everyone to see. It's then up to everybody else seated around the table to pick one of their Who cards and one of their What cards and submit it face down to the editor for approval. Once everybody has had the chance to submit something, the editor then reads out everybody's submissions out loud and selects a winner to publish, and the winner of that round gets to take the editor's card as a point. Finally, the editor returns their chosen deck to the center of the table, and play continues around clockwise until everybody has had the opportunity to be the editor at least twice. And as you might expect, the conspiracy theorist who earned the most editor cards by the end wins the game. So why play Cardspiracy in the classroom? Isn't this just some other harmless little party game? Well, yes, in a manner of speaking, it is, but if leveraged well and mindfully, Cardspiracy could be a fantastic way to kick off all kinds of really important discussions about media literacy. Just one disclaimer though before you get into the game, you might want to take some time to review the content of the cards first, as there may be some you might want to remove from the game before using it with your class. Again, Cardspiracy is rated to be used for ages 14 and up, even just casually, so we're talking T for teen territory here, and you know your students better than I do, obviously, so use your best judgment. Anyways, for starters, consider this twist. More often than not, when educators delve into the topic of media literacy, we often do so with a focus on how to equip our students with the proper strategies and tools to combat disinformation, but we don't often take a step back and ask ourselves, why does disinformation even exist in the first place? And Cardspiracy is a wonderful tool to dive into that conversation, because in this game, we're not the audience for fake news. We are the authors. We're the ones stirring the pot and spilling the tea. But why? Now, granted, the roleplay in this game is not all that extensive. We're not talking Dungeons and Dragons or Savage Worlds here, or anything like that. However, it's enough to get your students thinking critically about what could possibly motivate someone to spend the time and energy to create and disseminate disinformation. The goal in Cardspiracy, as we've established, is to attract as many of these followers as possible. And yes, of course, these wonderful followers that you want to gather are just going to be worth points at the end of this game. But you have to ask the question, in real life, for those that continually drum up fake news, what value do these followers have? A lot of the conspiracies you'll concoct while playing this game will be laughable and totally bananas. But there may be a few that come up when you're playing this game that will sound uncomfortably similar to some truly bonkers examples of conspiracy theories that have successfully spread in real life, that real people out there regrettably believe to be true and end up suffering from dire consequences as a result. This is why it is so important to hammer home that media literacy lesson, that it's not enough simply to trace a piece of content back to its source and find out who the author is, but we have to dig deeper and investigate what is this author's agenda or purpose for sharing that information. Do they actually possess any level of legitimate professional experience or expertise in the subject matter that they are writing about or reporting about? Now, between you and me, for most young men and women I've had the pleasure to get to know throughout my many teacher lives to date, this kind of detective work isn't exactly their forte. You know what, if you're prepping for a whole unit or project on media literacy, particularly on developing strong research skills, you should start with the activity I'm about to describe as a launchpad, and then supplement with Cardspiracy later. I can't tell you how many times I've run the following activity, and it has worked every time, and frankly that kind of scares me, and you'll understand why in a second. So I've come into a classroom and I've told the students that my uncle is a famous marine biologist who just discovered a brand new species of octopus that live in the trees in the Pacific Northwest region of the world, and he has decided to hold a timed research competition in order to see who could find the most interesting facts on his organization's new website in just 10 minutes. So with that premise set, I go ahead and I throw the link on the whiteboard, email the link, share a QR code, whatever the easiest way is for students to go ahead and jump straight into the website and bam, 10 minutes on the clock, let's go. So then I float around and I observe what they do, and once the clock has run out, then I gather everybody together in a circle and ask everybody to share what the most shocking fact was that they unearthed. And I'll play along. I act casually amazed. Maybe I'll pop a follow-up question or two, or I'll let other students pop a follow-up question. Once everybody has had the chance to share, I'll close and say, wow, those are some really interesting facts you guys picked up on there. But there's just one particularly interesting fact I don't think I heard anybody say. And they'll ask, what was that, Mr. Y? And I'll say that there is no such thing as the Pacific Northwest tree octopus. Boom. Mic drop. Big reveal. What? What are you talking about? We trusted you! Just take a moment there and bask in the glow of their shock and disgust. Seriously though, not once have I ever had a student pop over to Google to search up the Pacific Northwest tree octopus on their own instead of just diving into the source that I just handed to them. And if you're thinking, well, Jeremy, that's just because you've built up such a strong rapport with your students and you've earned their trust, I'll have you know that I've run this activity with kids and teens that I've met for the very first time as part of teaching a model lesson and part of a job interview. And I've had some kids give me some skeptical side eye, but not one has ever taken the initiative to do the research on their own. And if they did take the 5 seconds to do that, they would have found in the top search results that the whole thing is a hoax. And the whole activity would have just ended right there. Done. Oh, and after all that, I also tell them I don't even have an uncle who is a marine biologist. It'd be cool if I did, but I don't. You know, come to think of it, I don't think I've ever had one student even ask me what my uncle's name is when I've told that whole story and set the premise up for this whole activity so they could then go do a search and find out more about him. We have got to get kids asking more thoughtful questions, people. I'm telling you, this is all in the name of developing a culture of healthy skepticism and sharp young minds who know how to do their research. We've got to do it, people. We got to do it. But look, I will say in defense of my students both past and future that being able to suss out fact from fiction in news media is genuinely getting more difficult all the time. For one thing, we would all love to believe that if you hear a story presented by multiple different sources, that there must be some grain of truth to it. Unfortunately, we have to help our students understand that that method alone for fact-checking is far from foolproof. Recently, the satirical website The Chaser, which is effectively Australia's equivalent of The Onion, decided to dare their interns to try and cook up a totally bogus news story about how their beloved fairy bread pastry was going to have its name officially changed all across the country, just to see if local news outlets would pick it up and run the story. And they did. On the one hand, this is a hilarious practical joke, but on the other, it just goes to show you how easy it can be for total nonsense to get spread around and just go unchecked. Naturally, one would hope that journalists and professional fact-checkers would have our backs on this, but even for them, verifying news stories is only going to get more difficult in the future. Where'd you come from? Sorry, I had to make a dramatic entrance, you know. Okay, sure, but we already did the whole Julie Noki talking to your future self in the cold open, do you remember? I know, I was there. Love you, Julie, you're killing it. Yes, she is pretty awesome, but I'm sure you didn't come back to the future to tell me what I already know. I didn't come back to the future. I traveled back in time. And how did you do that again? That's not important. Then what are you doing here? I'm here to tell you about AI. AI? Yes, AI, artificial intelligence. Oh, cool. Are you going to tell us what AI can do in the future? Actually, I'm here to tell you about what AI can do right now. What? Come on, man. You said you were from the future. Well, I am from the future, just a few short minutes from now. Okay, but how did you... We often like to talk about artificial intelligence like it's some distant sci-fi dream, but the truth is, computer scientists have been making some incredible advances in this technology as we speak. So much so that ISTE, or the International Society for Technology and Education, has introduced resources for the very first time to help educators delve into a wide variety of topics pertaining to AI. And according to a recent story by Wired magazine, researchers at the Georgetown University Center for Security and Emerging Technology have already gotten to the point to be able to demonstrate how one of their algorithms called GPT-3 is not only capable of designing one isolated piece of disinformation, but also having the potential to create an entire series of interconnected pieces woven together to craft a whole larger bogus narrative campaign. And when they gathered together volunteers for a study to see whether anybody would be up to snuff to sniff out the fake news, the results of the study were troubling. Ugh, okay, I better tell everyone about this, but how did you... Okay, fine. Maybe how time travel works in this episode is not important. But what is really important is that we continue to find ways to engage our students in thinking critically about all the media content they consume and all the information that we are all bombarded with every single day. So that is it, my friends. I hope you found some inspiration with that Pacific Northwest tree octopus activity, as well as with the game Cardspiracy here, and I'm sure this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to figuring out how to leverage games for the development of those all-important critical thinking and media literacy skills. What games have you leveraged for this purpose? Drop your suggestions in the comments below, and maybe we'll explore them in greater detail in a future episode. Thanks for watching. This educational program is made possible by the support of our generous Patreon patrons. If you're interested in supporting our ongoing mission of making game-based learning of all kinds more accessible to educators everywhere, check us out at patreon.com/engageshow. All resources cited in this episode, along with links to all music used with permission, can be found in the description below. I'm Jeremy, and this has been Engage, where learning through play is the name of the game. We'll see you next time.